What is up guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's reaction video is 10 ways Brits and Americans use numbers very differently. Lost in a pond, his link is in the description as always. The only ones I can think of, just literally off the top of my head, is month. So today is the 16th of September 2024, so we say it different. Americans would say September 16th, okay. 2024.
Sorry,
and then
when you said September, I was thinking, you said months, I was thinking that's not a number.
No, but it's numbers.
Yeah,
so
the way
we say it, and then the way they write it as well. You guys would write 09, 16, 24. Where I can see on my computer right now in the bottom right corner, it says 16/09/2024,
Yeah.
and that is how we say it.
Usually that doesn't confuse me if the middle number is like 25, because I know there's not a 25th month, so I know it's American.
13 and above then. What did you get 25?
I
know, but 13 and above it's not confusing because you're like, there's only 12 months. But anything under 12 and then the numbers aren't the same, it's like, oh, which way is it? When we're looking at American date, I guess. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Smash that button guys, smash the subscribe button, it does really help the video. So we really appreciate it, and let's get into it.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Oh, hello, don't mind me, just using the calculator on my phone, which I keep in my pocket just to stick it to my year 10 maths teacher who told me that I'd never have such luxury. And speaking of maths, remember a few videos ago when I said this? A question that I get all the time is, why do British people say maths instead of math? Well, when it comes to Britain and America, this is by no means the only difference that involves numbers. In fact, since I moved to the United States, my daily life has become filled with numeric anomalies with which my brain may never come to terms. Now, before I get into that, I do want to point out that this video will not be examining our two countries' different measuring systems, because I also did that in a previous video. And while we're on the subject of numbers, if you want to propel this channel to 1 million subscribers and you haven't yet become one yourself, do that now.
Same here. 70% of you guys.
In the meantime, here are 10 ways that British and American people use numbers very differently. Ooh. Now, before I hit record on today's video, I did a little bit of a tally as to how many places I've lived in either country. During the 26 years that I lived in Britain, I lived at precisely 5 addresses, compared to 9 during the 16 years that I've lived in America. And during that time, one major pattern has stood out to me. American addresses definitely have longer house numbers, but British addresses have longer postcodes. So it all evens out. In fact, let me give you some examples of what I mean. From memory, every single address that I had in Britain comprised of 2 digits. And pound for pound, the experience of most British people is that their house address won't ever exceed 3 digits. There are occasional exceptions to that, but in America, those exceptions seem to, in fact, be the rule. Because at virtually all of the places that I've lived in the US, the house or the apartment number has been in the thousands. And also, at some of these addresses, the American street name...
Like say, over 100, especially in Jersey, is quite rare, over 100.
Yeah, we lived at number 100 when I was growing up.
Number 100? Oh, did you?
We were the last house.
There you go, the last house, number 100.
Maybe in England, maybe a couple hundred.
Yeah, but 1,000, I doubt that.
I reckon not even, probably over 500.
Yeah, probably not.
Itself might contain a number, like 321st Avenue. They don't usually go that high. But 2nd Street. In Britain, a street that's also a number is very uncommon, to the extent that I'm not sure they even exist. However, as I said, Britain has America beat when it comes to the size of our postcodes. And if for whatever reason you're confused by the term postcode, it is simply what Americans know as a zip code. You see, in Britain, a postcode can range from 6 to 8 characters, where in the US, it's just 5. However, notice there that I said characters and not numbers. Well, since this video is all about numbers, there is something to keep in mind here. British postcodes are a combination of letters and numbers, meaning that American zip codes probably have more numbers, but that's whatever.
So Jersey
the first letters in a UK post...
6, 3 and 3.
Yep, they're 3 and 3. And
they all start with JE.
Oh yeah, they all start with JE, and all the UK postcodes I've ever lived at are only 6. I've never seen a 5, I've never seen a 7. I've only ever seen a 6.
6, yeah?
Yeah, I've only ever seen a 6 in the UK as well. Obviously there is more, but I've only ever lived at a 6er.
Postcodes denote the postal region. So for example, where I grew up in Grimsby, that was part of the Doncaster postal code for some reason. So the first 2 letters are DN. And then you have a series of numbers and letters that denote a more precise location.
Which is weird, because you'd have then thought that Rotherham would have been like RT, but it's S66.
Yeah, which confuses me, because Sheffield is also S.
Yeah, I don't know why, but it says
Which makes
66
sense,
in Rotherham.
because S. But maybe it's for South Yorkshire.
Maybe Rotham's part of the Sheffield postcode group.
Maybe.
Then. Maybe that's it.
Because the fact that Grimsby is part of Doncaster is mad.
I didn't even know Doncaster had their own one. Because
Yeah,
Doncaster's smaller than like
I'm
Rotherham.
surprised Doncaster's not like in the Rotherham.
Yeah,
Like, they
but
haven't
maybe
got a
Rotham's
joint
in
one.
Sheffield. That would make sense.
But then the Robin Hood Airport, is that not Doncaster Sheffield?
Yeah.
I'm surprised Sheffield doesn't just own Doncaster
Just
and Rotherham.
own Doncaster as well. I didn't know they had DN. There you go. But they got
They
Grimsby
really just
somehow.
missed out Rotherham on the airport, didn't they?
I guess so, yeah.
In America, it's just numbers, so that's easy. And basically, the first couple of digits are arranged by state. So here in the state of Illinois, those first 2 digits range from 60 to 62. One other series of digits over which Britain has a...
My phone numbers confuse me just with the different codes with UK. I always get it wrong.
And also the dashes.
Yeah, I imagine it's the same US people getting confused with UK numbers, but yeah, it confuses me.
America beat is phone numbers, actually. Typically speaking, if we're not calling from overseas, in which we would need to use a country code, then a UK phone number usually consists of 11 digits. US phone numbers, meanwhile, consist of 10, basically 2 zip codes put together. The major difference here comes in the area code. For the first 20 years of my life, growing up in Grimsby, my area code was 01472, 5 digits. But it's worth keeping in mind that that only applies to landline phones. In the last 25 years, of course, we've seen the rise of the...
Yeah, because like
Jersey's
Jersey's
01534.
The whole of Jersey's, that's the landline, not mobiles.
Rotherham is 01709, I want to say.
Yeah, because that's where your grandma rings.
Yeah, but that's only landlines, like you said, not mobiles.
Mobile phone and or calculator. In Britain, unlike with landline phones, these are not assigned an area code. In fact, I think most, if not all, mobile phones in the UK begin with the digits 07. Incidentally, those are 2 digits that are going to be very important later on in this video, so keep watching. In America, I was surprised to find that this was quite different, because your mobile, or cell phone as it's usually known in the US, will usually carry the same area code as your landline phone, if you still have a landline phone. So for example, the first place that I lived was Anderson, Indiana. And that city is in a region of Indiana that carries the area code 765. So all of the landlines there begin 765. And if you purchase your cell phone there, most likely that too will have the same area code. And most states, like Indiana and my current state of Illinois, are home to multiple area codes, which is why it was surprising to discover there are in fact 12 states, including the behemoth that is Alaska, that have just one. And that's because said states have more cows than people, probably.
Fair enough.
Wyoming does.
Earlier on, when I said this, just to stick it to my Year 10 maths teacher who told me that I'd never have such luxury, it did occur to me that my thousands of American viewers might have been thinking, what's Year 10? Was Lawrence born in the 1st century? No. A year in this instance is the equivalent of what Americans would call a grade at school. And it just happens that this particular example is a year populated by 40.
Yes, year means grade, but grade 10
is
year 11.
Oh, is it?
They're one
I got no clue what it is.
We're one ahead because we don't have they have pre-K, kindergarten, all that. We don't have that.
It always confuses me, that difference.
Like grade 7 is year 8.
Oh wow, there you go.
They're one below.
So grade 6 and a year 7, you should be like 12, 13, 12, 13.
No, you're 11, 12.
11, 12, yeah. Yeah, 12, there you go, 12. So is your grade 6, 12 then, I guess? Let us know.
14 to 15-year-olds. And you might be thinking, ooh, Lawrence, that's not 10, that's grade 9. Well, actually, it's both, you. You see, from between the ages of 5 to 6, British children begin what is known as Year 1. But as I discovered while watching the documentary The Kindergarten Cop, Americans don't call that the first grade, they call it kindergarten.
Yeah, there you go.
And so their numbering system is always one behind us. Oh, and speaking of years, that brings us on.
Yeah, you're a teacher.
Not in America.
I think at this point, most of us are probably aware that Britain and America can't agree on how to write the date. Obviously, in Britain, it's day first, month second, and year last. As evidenced by our famous Guy Fawkes slogan, remember, remember, the 5th of November. Whereas in America, of course, it's flipped, as evidenced by July the 4th. Americans usually say the 4th of July. I don't know why they do that, but for everything else, it's the month first and the day second. Why do they do that? Well, you'll just have to watch my YouTube short all about it. One of my longtime patrons, Jeff, asked me on this week's secret live stream. In the US, most people have memorized their phone numbers and social security numbers. What personal numbers are people expected to know in Britain? And phone numbers used to be one of those until we didn't need to anymore. But our equivalent of America's social security number is our national insurance number, or as it's known intimately,
Yes, but in Jersey it's actually called a social security
Yeah,
number.
in Jersey we've got a social security.
But I don't remember mine.
I don't remember mine.
We have a little card that says it.
Yeah, national insurance number in the UK, it is that. I don't know what mine is. I do have one. I don't know what it is.
To me, NIN. Nobody calls it that, really. So, what are the major numerical differences between an SSN and a NIN? Well, for once, it isn't the number of characters, because an SSN has 9 and a NIN has 9. Try saying that after 7 white Russians. But the difference here is similar to zip codes versus postcodes. A NIN is comprised of 2 letters, followed by 6 numbers, and another letter for good measure. In the US, it's all numbers. America doesn't like letters. The first set of 3 digits is the area number. The second set of 2 digits is the group number, and then the final set of 4 digits is the serial number. We all care about that, obviously. The point is, I have both a NIN and an SSN, so I'm special. Time. Is it real? Oh, that's a different video. Well, sometimes, to people like me who've lived on 3 different time zones, time can feel like it's ahead of its time. So I don't want to get bogged down in that, because there are other differences to talk about, namely how we tell the time. For instance, in Britain, if the time is 9:15, we might well say it's 9:15.
Yeah,
In
9:15.
America, you often hear a 9:15, and similarly, Brits might refer to 9:30 as 9:30,
Yeah,
whereas
9:30.
Americans might say 9:30. But the biggest difference...
Yeah, we've said half something so many times and people have been like, what are you on about? I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
10:30. Like right now, well, it's 10 o'clock right now, it's 1 minute past 10. But if it was 10:30, I'd be like, oh, it's 10:30.
Well, obviously.
between British and American digital clocks can be seen once we get to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. At that point in America, clocks will simply say 1 o'clock. But not in Britain, where it suddenly goes from 12:59 to 13 o'clock. And that's because British clocks are on military time. And when I lived in
American
Britain, I
clocks
never
not.
knew this as military time. In fact, it was Americans that alerted me to this term. I just thought of it as time, like the whole world does this. And now that I know that it is military time, I'm confused that America doesn't do it, because they have the biggest military in the world. And then I found that the US military does do it, but the general public doesn't. Either way, to this very day, I instinctively know that 7 p.m. in the evening, that last word was redundant, is equal to 19 o'clock. I should point out that British people don't go around saying...
Yeah, I was going to say, we don't just say it's 1900 now.
Yeah, we don't speak in the military form.
But if you see 1900 on your phone, everyone's phone probably says it.
Yeah,
you can change it.
Archie's on our phone, so I won't do it, but
Yeah,
our
but-
computer says 2200, there you go.
But yeah, we know that's 10 o'clock.
And also, I feel like 99% of people in the UK, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's more like 20%, I don't know, I thought it was more, would say 24-hour clock and not military time. They don't see, when you see 22:02 as 10 o'clock, you don't see military time, you see 24
Like people
hour.
say, is your clock set in 24 hour?
Yeah, is it a 24-hour clock?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because you don't have to have your AM or PM because you've got your 1300, 1400.
You know you're not, yeah.
Yeah.
19 o'clock. In conversation, we would say 7, which makes it even weirder, I suppose, that our clocks don't do that. But anyway, a moment ago when I was talking about quarters, there's one thing that I forgot to mention, because it wasn't quite relevant yet, and that's how the two countries refer to a quarter, as in the fraction. Because I've noticed that Americans, like my wife for example, use the words quarter and 1/4 interchangeably. But having grown up in Britain, 1/4 always sounds weird to me, because then we would only say quarter in that context.
Yeah.
But I'm afraid that I'm going to have to interrupt myself there with a couple of caveats. The first of those is we don't have special words for other fractions, except for half. But then again, if you were to say 1/2, you could get confused with the time.
Yeah, because we'd say third, a fifth, a sixth, a seventh.
I'm not going to lie, but I don't really understand any of that. Like,
We would say a fifth, though, or a third.
of what, though? Like, give me a sentence.
33 quid is a third of £100.
Yeah, I would never say that, though.
Shall we split it in three, in a third?
Three.
Threes, I don't know. It's late.
No, I feel like we'd just say we're going to split it 3 ways.
3 ways, but like...
And then someone would bring out the trusty phone calculator.
Yeah, but like... A third is definitely used, fifth's definitely used, sixth, but you don't say fourth,
Yeah,
you say
so-
quarter.
If my maths teacher was watching, I didn't need to know it by some
Math or maths?
mathematics.
The other thing that might explain why Americans often plump for 1/4 is that a quarter is already part of the national dialogue, because that's the name of an American coin of the same name.
True.
Did you edit this?
Oh, yeah.
And I want to finish this video by
Zero.
talking about 3 numbers in particular, the first of which is 0. Is 0 a number? I'm no mathematician. And 0 is an interesting one to me because both countries have synonyms of the word 0 that the other country doesn't have. In America, somebody might say, I got zilch, as in I've got nothing. Whereas Britain's alternatives for this nice round number are often context dependent. Firstly, you've got nil, which you often find in sports, as in Grimsby Town Football Club won the FA Cup final 6-0. Whereas American commentators are more likely to say 6-0 or 6-zilch. And then there's the word naught, which from memory is what I called 0 when I was a little kid. But it's also used in the title of a game that Americans call tic-tac-toe, a game that we call noughts and crosses.
I
remember earlier when I said
I thought they were just circles.
Not. Yeah, no, it's just not. Yeah, not.
I just thought they were circles.
And then the slang could be note. I got note.
That's just Rotherham.
My area code was 01472. This use of O to denote 0 in phone numbers is not something you often hear in America, where the preferred option would be 01472.
Yeah, because this is me. So my phone number has a 0 obviously at the start, and it has a 0 like a few numbers in.
Yeah.
So I sometimes go 0, number, then I go O, and I'm like,
I always say O, yeah.
I always start with 0.
We said O earlier when we said that.
I always start 07, and then I say my other numbers, then I go 0.
Oh, wow.
And then there were 7, or 2 actually, but 7 is one of them. Here in the United States, the number 7 is almost always written with 1 horizontal stroke and 1 diagonal stroke. But as many observant Americans have often pointed out to me, this is not always the case in Britain, where to that we like to add another horizontal stroke through the middle.
I don't do that.
And you might be thinking, why do you do that? And the answer is simple: to avoid confusion with the number 1.
No, it's not.
And to all of the Americans laughing at this idea, 7-Eleven agrees with me. I've just realised that's probably not an argument in my favour. And finally, how do you define 1 billion? Well, most people today who have a grasp of big numbers would tell you 1,000 million, but try telling that to British people from before the 70s. And that's because before 1974, British people, as well as a host of other countries, defined a billion as 1 million, otherwise known as a long billion, or more commonly, a trillion. And you might be thinking, what did those British people call 1,000 million? And the answer is simple: 1,000 million. However, all of this ceased to be the case when we followed the American example, a decision that was taken by 69th UK Prime Minister Harold Wilson, not to be confused with 67th UK Prime Minister Harold Wilson. That said, most European countries actually still operate under the long billion, which makes you wonder, is Luxembourg the richest country just because it keeps adding on 3 zeros? I've no idea. Well, if I've learned anything today, it's that both countries have a very different set of numbers and occasionally letters. And for somebody who's already not very good at maths, this video has really made me miss my word videos. Anyway.
Can get confusing.
Yeah, that video has just made me remember that I hated my maths lessons.
Oh, I love maths. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, but you're good at it. I think it's different.
At it, obviously.
No, you
Americans
are.
do it different.
No, you are. And I think that definitely helps with liking it. I don't like it because I can't do it.
Yeah.
I scraped a C in maths, and my
you
teacher was
didn't
so
put the F
proud.
in.
He was so proud of me.
You didn't put the F in.
He called me
Proud
up.
of a C.
I struggled to get that C. He literally called me up, and he was like, "I'm proud of you."
Smash that button, guys. Smash the subscribe. What you do?
Have a fantastic day.
And we'll see you legends in the next one. Peace.